Hi, my name is Mike Dillard, and this is Self-Made Man, the podcast for men who want to leave their mark on the world and create a legacy of honor, integrity, and achievement in every aspect of their lives. I'm glad you're here, and once again, it is time to forge your destiny. This episode is brought to you by the Self-Made Man Society. If you guys would like to join me on a year-long adventure around the world as I take you into the homes and offices of my mentors, head over to selfmademansociety.com and check it out. You're going to sit down with myself and my advertising agency as we take you inside my Facebook marketing campaigns and show you how to produce over $100,000 per month in revenue from cold traffic. I'm going to introduce you to Tucker Max as we teach you how to become the biggest personal brand and expert in your industry. And I'm even going to take you into the office of my attorney as we teach you how to lawsuit-proof your life. And right now, you can even join for free. So head over to selfmademansociety.com and check it out. And as for today's episode, well, it is a big one. I can't think of a single entrepreneur who's made a fortune and then hasn't lost it all at least once during their career. Donald Trump, Robert Kiyosaki, Richard Branson, and even myself, when you take chances, you're eventually going to lose a round. And at that point, the decisions you make and what you tell yourself when you wake up every day as you look across that burned field that used to be your life, that's all that matters. So today, we sit down with another entrepreneur who was taken out by the real estate crash in '08. Nick Ruiz was worth millions in his 20s. But within months of the crash, he found himself filing for bankruptcy. He obviously could have given up, but he didn't. And instead, he chose to turn his biggest failure into what is now his greatest asset. This is his story, and it contains a priceless lesson for every entrepreneur. So please help me welcome Nick Ruiz. Welcome back, everybody. Mike Dillard here, and today we are going to hear an absolutely fascinating story from one of our fellow entrepreneurs and a self-made man in his own right, Mr. Nick Ruiz. So, Nick, welcome to the show.
Mike, it is a freaking pleasure. I'm glad to be here, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. You have an amazing story, which we're going to dive into here in just a second. And what I thought was most interesting about it as I started to learn more about you and your history is that we got our start in a very similar manner, meaning we were both inspired to become entrepreneurs by sitting home late at night watching infomercials.
Yes. I thought those things are killer, man.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And I think that would be an amazing place to start to give people an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better.
Those guys have the science down. They got me hook, line, and sinker. They knew the right words at the right time to trigger the right things for me to pull out that freaking credit card. Carlton Sheets, you ever heard of him?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. I think 19 years old. Saw the late night infomercial, in the late 90s. It was 99, 2000-ish, like midnight, 1 a.m. The loop of those were going on 30 minutes. Hey, make money in real estate, no money down. And I knew real estate was a super wealth creator. It's one of the top wealth creators in history. Always has been, always will be. So I'm like, all right. And I knew people that, were very wealthy, with real estate. So I'm like, okay, let's figure this out. And what I liked about it was the fact that you don't have to think of anything or come up with some genius idea or whatever. So I'm like, all right, I think I can do real estate. There's real estate all around me. I don't have to be smart to do this. So ordered the program, $250. You get, back then it wasn't online courses. I don't know if it was VHSs or DVDs back in 99, 2000. Maybe that was in the transitional stage of all that. But workbooks, big pack, a big box came in the mail like 2-3 weeks later, the whole program. Devoured it immediately. That's how I am. I go crazy. And I noticed a lot of things were really far-fetched in the material and almost like not realistic. Some of them weren't legal in my state, some of the strategies. So I kind of got discouraged quickly. Back then, I had an immature psychological entrepreneurial mind. I believe entrepreneurs go through different phases of entrepreneurial maturity. I was in the very immature entrepreneurial stage. I was like, a couple road bumps, this shit ain't going to work. And I bounced, and put it in the corner. I hid it in my closet and I was like, yeah, this is too tricky. Let it collect dust. As I was working my job, I knew that I just wanted more. I was like, I got to put my own stake in the ground. I can't work for anybody. I have to do this real estate thing. So a couple months later, I pulled it back out. I was like, let me just pull 1 or 2 things that I think I can do out of this. Maybe 98% of this course is either illegal or far-fetched or BS, but let me just pull out a couple little things that I can do. So long story short, my urgency was high and I pulled out a couple things. I did my first deal, no money down. I did it kind of creatively. In fact, the way I did it back in the year 2000, I wouldn't recommend a new person start today, but either way, it worked at the time. And I bought another one, no money down, sold them, pocketed 20, 30 grand, sold the next one, pocketed tens of thousands, spiraled into more stuff. And I was like, oh my God, why would I work? I found the Holy Grail. And then I started building and buying and borrowing. And, I had a multi-million-dollar net worth by my mid 20s with like 70 buildings and all kinds of, big operation was going. So that's how it all started though. The seed was planted from a late night infomercial, which I don't regret for a second because it was the seed.
It's interesting. It was same age, same time. We're probably the same age. I'm 38.
35.
Yeah, so very close. We're watching the same infomercials around the same time. And
right.
You went for the Carlton Sheets one. For some reason, I don't know. There's just real estate didn't ping for me. And I wish I could remember his name. It's right on the top of my tongue.
Don LaPree?
No, it wasn't Don. It was.
Do you remember him though?
Yeah, of course. Tiny little ads. Yeah.
Oh my God. One tiny little ad. Oh my God. Those are the good old days, really.
So I think I did buy Don's, but I purchased another one, and the name will pop in my head in a little bit.
What field was it? What industry
it was
were we talking about?
infomercials. Not infomercials, info products. How to write booklets.
Okay.
And I just think it's funny that you bought real estate and turned that into your business and your path, and I bought info products, which ended up being my path, years later.
I wonder who it was, because I'm sure I'd recognize the name if you spit it out, because we watched them all, right? Like I'm really curious. We should look it up later.
He's here in Austin. I had lunch with him like last year. It'll totally pop into my head here at some point.
Oh, that guy you're saying, you know him now.
Yeah.
Okay. Don LaPree died in prison, by the way.
Yeah, I know. That was such a crappy deal.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. Crazy. So you had a bunch of success in your early 20s, as did I. And what were, looking back, some of the biggest mistakes that you made at that time?
It's immature psychology. It sums up all the things I did. Going to Vegas, doing dumb stuff, bro. Like just young with a bunch of money, just not knowing what I was doing. I don't even know how to put it into words.
I'm asking because I did the same thing. I'm hoping you have some really good stories.
Gambling. I was big into gambling, and I was trying to, I was in Vegas all the time, running card games, just doing all kinds of dropping so much money in Vegas. It's a sin, the kind of money I've left in that city. I'm not going to lie. Just all that, just living a fast life. Because again, it came quickly, and I earned it. It wasn't like I won the lottery, but it just came so fast. And I just, fast growth, I feel like in anything has to have some kind of grounds to it. And it was such a fast climb that it almost wasn't sustainable. I don't know how to really put it into words, but I made a lot of wrong, immature choices. And all I can say, I bring it to the immaturity scale in the spectrum of maturity as an entrepreneur. Maturity is not chronological. I don't believe it. It's experiential more than anything. And it took me going through a lot of those things to have the wiser mindset I have today. I don't regret any of it. I don't believe in that. It was all leading up to this moment, but a lot of immaturities had to come out of me. Cocky, treating people wrong, all that kind of stuff, man. Just dumb, judgmental. Like, what do you mean? Like I couldn't understand. I was like, anybody can grab the world by the balls. Like, are you stupid? What's wrong with you? Like, and I just couldn't understand all different psychologies that maybe weren't ambitious or didn't, because, entrepreneurs, it's kind of lonely because no one thinks like you. And I would like judge people, just bad. Not good.
Yeah,
there's so many things.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think you have to go through those periods of learning. Period. I think they're absolutely required, because without them, you cannot continue to develop and transform yourself. I think everybody has to go through those periods, and that's how you actually learn from it. So, yeah, same here. Did the same thing. In my 20s, as a single guy
just
would
cocky,
do.
Right?
Yeah.
Cocky.
Not cocky, just irresponsible. Buying a 6-bedroom house, living by myself, and just stupid stuff like that. But you learn your lesson from it, and that's what allows you to grow. So, what happened with you after that I would say served as the turning point, if you will?
Well, 2008, we had the big housing crash, the mortgage crisis, and I was in the heart of the industry that got clobbered, real estate, mortgages, housing. So I had properties that lost 80% of their value. Loans were getting called due. Banks were freaking out. You know what I mean? Stop lending, cold. It went from a money faucet to we will give you no money, regardless of net worth or anything, right? And it changed everything. And the bottom line is that crash eventually forced me into bankruptcy. Perfect storm of events of all the different things happening along with that crash forced me into actual bankruptcy.
Were you paying attention to the doomsayers, if you will, in 2006, 2007, who were kind of sending out warnings about this? Were you aware of it and you just ignored it, or were you totally unaware of it?
Okay, here's the thing about bubbles and peaks and bottoms. When everybody's bullish, okay, like everyone, it's hard to know that you're in a bubble. I mean, we're talking billionaires. Some of the most financially savvy minds in the world got clobbered by this thing. Lehman Brothers, a 150-year-old bank, had their doors shut. They know a few things about economics, and they didn't see it coming, okay? So I paid some attention, but there's doomsdayers every day of the week. From now until the day I die, every single day, someone will speak of, you better watch out, doomsday's coming. There will always be doomsday. And, you know, when you're in a super hot, heated scenario, you brush them off even more. I guess if I look back and connect dots, that's the way I look at it. You know, I will say it was interesting. Me and my buddies, me and my big landlord buddies and, you know, real estate guys, we'd be like, how is this happening? Like every year we'd buy properties and then the next year it would go up by so much and we'd sell it and make all this money. We're like, I mean, looking back, I'm like, that isn't sustainable. But when you're in the moment, it's much harder to see things, like everything in life. I mean, that's why people have coaches. That's why people have counselors, because there's this third party removed point of view that looks at things objectively. When you're printing money, it's hard to like deviate or look outside of that. And I guess that's part of it. But yeah, did you see The Big Short, by the way? Killer movie. Oh my God.
That was great. Yeah.
Great freaking movie. I mean, I that movie was just badass. But just on a side note. But anyways, the doomsday, yeah, again, you know it. Every day till the day you die, Mike, there will be someone somewhere in the media speaking of doomsday. Sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it's not.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so knowing before we actually get to that, I'd like to dive in a little bit deeper on the period when, you know, this is going on, the crash is happening, you're having to scramble. That can be a pretty traumatic experience when you're on cloud nine and then all of a sudden you find yourself flat on your face. How did you deal with that emotionally? Because some people don't recover from that.
They don't. And it's, you know, because my success in entrepreneurship was interwoven in my personal identity, I took it extra hard. I was Nick, the young hotshot, you know, entrepreneur, successful guy. Now I'm belly up. Like that, my ego was the worst. Like I wanted to hide in a corner and die. Depressed. I've never been depressed before. I never wanted to avoid like human contact because of embarrassment and, you know, misery. You know what I mean? I talk to whoever. Hey, what's up? How are you? Bop, bop, bop. Happy go lucky, Mr. Happy go lucky. All that shifted. So I feel like it wasn't just like the financial devastation spilled over into total, just psychological, emotional, physical, you know, just devastation across the board. It took a toll on my family, my personal life, everything. I mean, it took a total toll. So I was in just a dark place. You know what I mean? And listen, I've been listening to Tony Robbins since I was 15 years old. Like I get personal development. I get, you know, hey, it's always after every dark night's a bright day. We can all look at that and we can like it on social media and posts about it. Listen, humans are humans. At the end of the day, when you are in the eye of that depressing, miserable, bottom of the barrel storm, it's still not as easy as, hey, you know what to do, Nick. You know, you listen to the programs, you read the books. This is what you do when you're in total adversity. It doesn't quite work like that. And it was very, very hard. Now, fortunately, that was ingrained in me so quickly. I shook myself off, you know, woke up to these things. But I feel like no matter who you are, there is going to be a point where you're just down and out in a dark place. No matter who you are, we're humans. You know?
And what were you telling yourself during that period to eventually dig yourself out of it? Because that's the moment when, you know, self-talk, when you wake up every single day and you go to bed every single night, that's what digs you out of that pit. It's a very intentional, conscious effort when you want to do it the least, but it's one little itty bitty increment every single day that eventually pulls you back up.
Totally. And I had an extreme sense of urgency. I had a family to feed. I needed to make a living. And I do believe humans operate with most urgency when they're backed up against the wall. So when people hit me up online, when I'm teaching them how to make money in real estate from scratch and whatever, they're like, but no, Nick, you don't get it. Like, my situation's X. I'm like, boom, fuel in the tank, make it happen. Like, that's a blessing. Like, oh, you're backed up against the wall. Oh, success is your only choice. Good for you. Cause I got a schmuck over here who's making $1,200 a week. That's crying about how things don't work. Things don't work. His boss is giving him $1,200 a week, $1,500 a week. That's what's making him not become as successful on the side. You're in a better spot, brother. So total despair, forced urgency, along with, hey, Nick, the urgency was like, you know this stuff. What are you doing? Like, you get this. Okay. Deviate, adapt. That's what entrepreneurs do. We're evolvers and adapters. I believe that's the winning scenario that is the underlying with all entrepreneurs. Economic winds change. Industry winds change. Massive things change. All we know as humans are what we know right now. When people woke up on September 11th at 7 a.m., they knew this beautiful New York. An hour later, whatever it was, everything changed. And that's an extreme example, but who knows? I wake up open-minded enough to know that everything could change tomorrow, but I also know I believe I can win along with guys like you and other successful entrepreneurs that we know, because we will adapt and evolve. Who knows where everything will go? Who knows where the internet will go? Who knows where the economy will go? Who knows what these other countries are going to do? But if you are obsessed with evolving and adapting, which I was at the time, and I was like, I'm going to adapt, I'm evolving, do whatever. I'm going to exhaust this. I'm going to go this way. If I can't go that way, I go this way. And it's just relentless adaptation and evolution, I think, is what quickly brought me out of it, combined with miscellaneous strategy tweaks, which again is involved in the evolution adaptation, put me on the map quickly and better than ever, which allowed me to create an educational company, because I'm like, if I did it twice, it's all psychological. These strategies can be tweaked. Let me show people how to do it now. And that turned into that business, and things are good, better than they used to be back in the old days with the other success, you know? So it's evolution and adaptation. And if you're not willing to do it, you lose.
Yeah, agreed. And do you have any specific habits and or, let's say, rituals or processes that you are a big fan of that you implement in your life? Well, morning routines, things like that.
You know what? It's funny. I'm not this morning routine guy. I mean, you listen to podcasts, you read books, you wake up, you look in the mirror, you say this, you write this down, you do X, Y, and Z. Maybe it's a pro, maybe it's a con. I believe every human is different, and what works for you, God freaking bless you. And I mean that sincerely. I don't believe there's a universal recipe. So I don't have a routine. I just have this relentless psychology that whatever comes my way, I got it. And if I don't, I will adapt and evolve to get it. And I will find the people to get it, or whatever it is. I don't know how to even put it into words, but I just know that whatever comes my way, boom.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And I try to stay and I am a firm believer that strategy trumps effort. So I'm relentlessly pursuing the most strategic possible moves, like a chessboard. I want to see the whole chessboard. I don't want to be the queen knocking guys over. People think that's badass to be the queen on the chessboard and knock everybody over, and you're a big shot boss killer. I want to be removed from the board completely and control the whole board. So all I pursue is strategy. What's going to be the most effective strategy? Because at the end of the day, whether people want to admit it or not, strategy does trump effort. Period. Like, the wealthiest people in this world, the most successful people in this world, they put in mad effort, but the strategy involved, hard work doesn't make you rich. I know lots of hard workers. It takes more than that. Hard work is a component, but my point is I relentlessly just pursue strategy in everything I do. And I take my kids to school every day. I pick them up every day. I don't miss one event. I'm able to create beautiful businesses while I live my life. And to me, that's the holy grail. Some people, it's not. There's guys that want to go 80 hours a week and, be trillionaires. God bless them. Everybody's different. And my judgment is removed from all people now. I'm going off on a little tangent here, Mike, but it's just, when you ask me these questions, I got to strike the way these words come to my mind. I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth, like I told you before.
Well, I just, everything that you're mentioning and I really resonate with, because I found it to be true as well. And when someone asks me, what I do for a living or how to do it, what's the secret, right? It is a very intentional and strategic application of your efforts. And yes. So the way that I relate this to people is, you could have a backbreaking job doing whatever, physical labor, manual labor, whatever. You could be in an office all day. You could be an attorney. And I'm just going to say, as a default, if you're a driven individual, you're working your ass off no matter what your job is. And so if those things are equal between you and I, meaning we're going to work 12, 15 hours a day, we're going to put in the same amount of effort into our work, and yet I'm making millions of dollars per year versus their, $50,000, $100,000 per year. The difference is what we're working on. So
yes,
it's not the strategy. It's not the work ethic. I'm just choosing to apply myself to opportunities that have the potential for infinitely greater yield. And it drives me crazy because I feel bad for people. I feel bad that they haven't had the epiphany yet that they could apply that same amount of effort and work to a different subject and get 10 to 100x the results out of their life. And so that's the epiphany that I tried to bring to people and to let them have, is just say, hey, be very, 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 very careful on what you choose to spend your time and efforts on, because you're going to work your ass off either way. And yet one's going to yield 10x over the other. So, I'm totally with you. And my best friend.
That's where the general public points to Mike and says he's lucky or he's a genius, or, you know what I mean? And it's totally. Like, no, it's not. You want to, and I talk to my people too. You want to look lucky? You want to have people scratching their head saying, oh my God, this guy pulls the rabbit out of the hat every time. It's the strategy. And then when you combine that, like you said, with massive effort, you quote unquote look like a genius. You quote unquote look lucky. And the general public literally scratches their head wondering how you pulled the rabbit out of the hat every time. You're not Mr. freaking lucky. You don't have a horseshoe up your, you know what?
No, we both chose industries that have the potential for massive reward. You chose real estate, one of the wealthiest niches on the planet. I chose online marketing, a market with endless potential. And that's the biggest difference. That's it.
Yep.
My best friend Robert and I, we've used a saying since we've known each other, which is exactly what you brought up as well, which I thought was interesting, which is be the board. Don't be the game piece. Don't be the player. Be the board that everybody else is playing on. And so part of that strategic thinking, when you've got to decide where you're going to invest your time, money, and efforts, because the opportunity cost of choosing poorly is massive. The answer for me is, or the question I ask myself is, how can I be, instead of the board, how can I be the umbrella? How can I be the overarching presence and or business or whatever that goes over the entire industry or entire niche? So back in my network marketing days, you start at the bottom. You start as a distributor for a specific company, and you're like, well, the potential here is kind of capped. All I ever can do is sell this product through this opportunity. What if I became one of the service providers that sold the service to anyone in any company? Or what if you become and start your own network marketing company, and then you have all of the distributors under your umbrella? So it's always trying to think in terms of that, which I think, for you as well, I can teach people how to flip houses. I can flip houses myself, or I can teach people how to flip houses. And then, you can just go from there. You could become the next Keller Williams, right? Where you've got hundreds of thousands, if not millions of brokers working for you under this giant umbrella. And it's all going to take 15 hours a day. So
there's no question. Effort's mandatory. The guys that combine it with strategy are the ones that look like geniuses.
So I'm not a real estate guy, and I've got a question that I'm dying to ask you. What is the difference between your process, which, is on the flipping side, and the other guys who are like, don't flip, buy and hold, like let's say multifamily or something like that?
Well, that's a great strategy too. I'm not against it. What I'm saying is I teach people success in real estate from complete scratch, from knowledge scratch, financial scratch, credit scratch. That's not a game for the at scratch guy buying apartment buildings, buy and hold. Again, I don't knock that strategy. That strategy creates crazy wealth. I have a lot of my friends own lots of apartment buildings. Okay. I'm a fan of single families for so many reasons. Number one, the barrier to entry. Like, first of all, my new people, I teach them wholesaling. Do you know what that is?
No.
This is the strategy when people come to me and say, I want to get into real estate, but I have no knowledge, no cash, no credit, and I want to make a lot of money. Wholesaling. I operate on the single family triad. Wholesaling 1, rehabbing and selling 2, buying and holding single families 3. So wholesaling is putting a home under contract to buy. Let's say you find a house that's discounted for $100,000, and then you bring in a cash buyer that's willing to pay $110,000. They might fix it up, and sell it for 180, right? So they'll make 30, 40 grand. You pocket that $10,000 difference simply by putting the contracts together. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You don't put up any cash, no down payments, no credit, all those kinds of things. Okay. No cash, no credit, no down payments, no loans. You need no cash, no credit. You simply are an entrepreneur. And this is why this is the differentiator too. Everyone talks real estate investing. You're an entrepreneur. You're solving people's problems. You're finding a motivated seller who has divorce, bankruptcy, inheritance, back taxes, shitty property, bad tenants, etc. They have a super headache. You're saying, hey, you know what? Your house needs a lot of work. Maybe it's worth 180 when it's done. I'll give you 100,000 cash. Just sign this contract. So you solve their problem by getting this property out of their life. Johnny buyers fighting over the quote unquote foreclosure crumbs that are on the market that everyone else is fighting for. So you turn him onto an off market address, an address nobody knows about because you're a unique way to find motivated sellers, which I teach people. You tack on 10 grand, boom. You pocket $10,000. He comes in, he pays cash. His 110 grand blankets the entire transaction. You get 10,000 just for putting two parties together. That's what entrepreneurs do. We solve two separate problems and get paid hefty to do it. You can make 5 grand, 10 grand, 20 grand, 40 grand, 90 grand. One of my students just made $90,000 in about 3 hours. Okay. Cause it doesn't take much time to facilitate these, but you don't need cash. You don't need credit. There's zero barrier to entry. You know, within 30 days, you could pocket 10, 20, 30, 40 grand. Okay. And it's not like hypey BS. Like it's wholesaling. It's a real strategy.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm a real dude teaching real things that really work. I didn't invent it. It's just, I've been doing it so well and I've fine tuned it. And now I show people, you know, but single families, the highest liquidity apartment buildings. You know, I like the fact that they're super liquid. There's always a buyer for them. It's the bread and butter property of the world. Humans live in homes. It's, you know, if you're holding them, the tenants pay all the utilities. They're on autopilot. I mean, there's dozens of reasons why I love single families, especially because it allows the guy who raises his hand and says, listen, I'm working a job I hate. My family life sucks because I'm working 12 hours a day. I'm barely making ends meet. I want to become an entrepreneur. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I don't have any talents or skills, but I want to be an entrepreneur. Okay, come on over. There's real estate everywhere. You need to think of nothing. You need to be zero genius. Just figure out how to find discounted homes and how to find people to buy them. It's not genius work, and you can become a successful entrepreneur. The thrill I get of turning people onto that trumps any thrill I've ever gotten doing a real estate deal. And as much as I love real estate, people, you know, holding checks in their hands saying, thank you, Nick. So that's the bottom line. That's why I love single families, because of the barrier to entry. Yes, there's more advanced strategies where once you have 500K, you can do all kinds of things to 5X, 10X your money. Real estate is exponential and it's ultimate leverage. You don't have to be anywhere. It's one of those businesses. You can just keep writing checks and your wealth grows. But the from scratch aspect is what I'm obsessed with. Especially because I've done it from scratch and I was belly up. So my story totally coincides with the from scratch aspect. So it's kind of a perfect scenario for me to teach. In a long-winded story, there you go, Mike.
No, that's a great explanation. And you know, what I'd have to say that I would find most appealing about real estate is that the reputation is not in question of the market, right? Like, people have been buying and selling houses for as long as they've existed. You don't have to convince anyone that this is legitimate or whatever it may be. We're just buying and selling houses. That's pretty much it.
Bingo.
So that's a nice benefit to have. And
absolutely. As long as there's humans, people are like, oh, and it's the other thing too, where it's never going to be dated or trumped by tech. Robots can't take over. It's a business where as long as humans reside on Earth, there are fortunes to be made. And when humans go away, we got much bigger problems than making money.
Yeah. So I found in my industry that success is in the details. The difference between those who do really, really well and those who struggle is the people who are infinitely successful pay attention to the tiniest little details of their ads, their marketing pieces, their sales messages, whatever it may be. So I'm going to assume that you see a similar dynamic in real estate. What do you think is the most important detail or two that separates those who are super successful and those who are not?
Everyone's in the human being business. We are not in the house business. That is secondary. You are in the human being business, solving human problems. Every single entrepreneur is in the human being business. And when you can embrace that, and then the people you operate with experience your sincerity, the money automatically starts coming into your bank account as an entrepreneur. I tell my sellers that, my buyers, my students who learn from me, you are in the human being business. And when you can build rapport with humans, and that you obviously it's a skill that gets developed, and you get better and better at building rapport with humans, that's when you truly have the world by the balls in a sincere way, not in some manipulative, tough salesman kind of way. You can't lose. You cannot lose. Everyone's in the human being business. I'm in the human being business. Real estate's just how we transact as humans.
Yeah, that's great advice. I'm sitting here and I'm like, that's exactly what we teach on my end when it comes to copywriting, right? Which nobody wants your product. They want the ultimate benefit or solution that product is going to get them. And most people just never really, put two and two together on that. What are some of the biggest lessons that you took away from, the bankruptcy process, and specifically when you decided to get into the teaching side of this business model? Because that had to have been a decision or subject matter that you had to think quite a bit about, right? Like, hey, I've done it. Now I had to file bankruptcy and I'm going to come out and teach this stuff. What was going through your head when you had to make the decision to publicly make that a part of your ongoing story?
With the bankruptcy, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, number one, I feel like there's sometimes can be a relation barrier in the quote unquote teaching business or guru business, whatever you want to call it. Oh, well, so-and-so has magic fairy dust. He's always been rich, or he's always been balling out of control. So, I'm different. I enjoy relaying my story because number one, it's like, no, bankruptcy's bottom of the barrel. Financially and credit-wise, that's the bottom, okay? So I get you. And I feel like that's where I really connect with people. I get you. Oh, you have kids? Oh, you work 60 hours a week and blah, blah, blah. And, you can't make ends meet, or you just filed bankruptcy 2 months ago. Oh, but if Nick, it's the classic Roger Bannister thing, right? The 4-minute mile. Oh, like when someone sees a human do something, it automatically, psychologically, you're just like, oh, if so-and-so did it, I can do it too. And that's why I love sharing my story. Some people would think, oh, bankruptcy, that's a crutch. You look like a schmuck. No, I don't. Because number one, it forced me to evolve and adapt to where now I am protected. I teach people you can get into real estate offensively while me remaining defensive. I played a leverage game when I first started, borrowing. Because, bottom line, you use someone else's money, you have infinite return, right? Whatever return I get is infinite because I wrote 0 checks and I would borrow. And there's a place for borrowing in real estate, but I've adapted to the very, very aggressive, walking the perfect tightrope of offense and defense. And I feel like that's why my strategy is so strong now. And I know that bankruptcy can't be in the cards because of the way I operate and the way I show people with super liquidity and those kinds of things. I can't teach people how to manage their money. I mean, wealth involves what you do with your money, not how much you make. That's been proven. So yeah, and then I decided, you know what, since I have fine-tuned this to such a really defensive but yet aggressive liquid state where I can show people how to make and change their lives quickly, while again, not like doing some crazy leverage game where they're at risk of bankruptcy, I need to start showing people. And I showed some people, I coached some people, more people want to know. I created a course, wrote a book, sold thousands of copies all over the world. And it just started organically evolving. And I'm like, you know what, I really, truly enjoy hearing how I've changed people's lives more than any real estate deal I've ever done. So that now, and again, my story's constantly interwoven in my message because it's important. I feel it's important for people to know, listen, I'm a regular dude. Because most people that are teaching things online have this relation barrier where they're like, well, he's so-and-so and he has this and he has X and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I did it from 0 in my teens. So I did it from scratch once. I did it from scratch again. But after being belly up, I'm telling you, there's nothing you are that I wasn't. And I feel like that is an extra push and motivation for people who need it. And I love sharing the story, where some people would be embarrassed or something. I'm not.
No, I think that's awesome. I think transparency and authenticity are the most valuable assets that, any business owner or entrepreneur can express these days.
Yep.
I mean,
totally.
That's it.
There's more slimy people than not online. Wouldn't you agree? In the teaching business, there's more.
You stand out. Yeah. Like a sore thumb when you're actually honest and transparent. Like, holy crap, I found a needle in a haystack, So.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Very cool.
Yeah. People reach out. They're like, listen, Nick, you seem real. You seem like I believe you. Humans have an innate ability to sense out BS too. You know what I mean? Some people have that sense better than others, but in general, people kind of know when stuff's BS.
Absolutely. So that was, you actually were about to touch on, or at least a little bit, one of my big questions for you today, which is, taking the lessons that you learned from round one, if you will. We're now starting to hear rumors of the tops of real estate market. The different signals in the economy are starting to go negative. People are selling stocks at record rates. I just read an article this morning where they've had 12 weeks or 14 weeks straight of stock sales, sell-off, which is the longest in history. I think the previous record was 10 or 12 weeks, something like that. And so, there's signs to cause caution. And so learning what you did from round one, what would you suggest to people who are involved in real estate from an investment standpoint to keep an eye out for, to adjust their strategy to make sure they don't get caught with their pants down?
Well, I think they should do what I did and now what I teach, which is number one, don't be over leveraged. But I love my strategy of, listen, here's the thing. Tops, bottoms, lefts, right, up, down, sideways markets, Nigeria to Canada to Mexico to the United States to England. If you look at it from the entrepreneurial approach, which is how I approach real estate, which is I'm a problem solver. I'm solving human problems, not house problems. There will always be divorce. There will always be someone inheriting a property. There will always be someone going bankrupt. There will always be somebody with back taxes that needs to liquidate an estate. There's always there's dozens of reasons why a house would sell at a deep discount. It happens all over the world because they're human problems. Going back to, as long as there's humans, there will be real estate money to be made. That's just a fact. So if wherever the market goes, you're going to be able to always get a deeply discounted home under contract. And there will always be people that have liquid money to buy homes, whether they keep them or whether they flip them. You just have to connect those parties. That's wholesaling. As far as rentals, I like to teach people to stay free and clear. My rentals are free and clear. So if all my property values go to zero, I still have passive income from my rentals. Okay. But the key is here, there will always be a deeply discounted property around the corner because of human being problems. Someone's going to prison. I mean, oh my God, it never ends. There's 100 reasons why homes sell at a deep discount. I'm not talking 10% off. I'm talking deep discounts. I teach people how to sniff those out, and they're everywhere. So those problems aren't going away. Whether the stock market skyrockets or the stock market plummets, those problems are going to continue. It's humanity as a whole that we're talking about here. So if you operate from that lens, the deals are infinite. So, when values are collapsing, you wholesale more. Maybe you rehab and sell more. Maybe you don't, buy at certain prices to hold, knowing things could deviate. Again, if you're free and clear, you're going to be able to weather the storm. But that's why I have the single family triad. There's 3 components to it, and I maneuver throughout the 3, and that's what I teach. But if you're always buying at a super deep discount, you're going to remain safe.
Yeah, and I think the leverage piece is the key, right? Like
big time.
That's where people get in trouble. So
no money down. When there's a real estate peak, and you know what? That's another thing I want to touch on this. I love the fact that I lived through the greatest crash since the Great Depression. I absolutely love it. Looking back, greatest entrepreneurial. There's no book in the world. There's no guru in the world that could have taught me what I learned. I'm actually writing a new book now about my creation of success from scratch and the psychological shifts that occurred. And I talk about there are things that no material can teach you. No material can teach you the most valuable things I learned. No material.
Well, it's the difference between reading a book about war and actually going to war.
Bingo. It's experiential, right? So it taught me, how to, when the banks are all doing these no money down loans, everybody can be a homeowner and everyone's a bull and bullish. That is the heating up of a bubble. And it's the classic Warren Buffett statement. When everyone's greedy, I'm fearful. When everyone's fearful, I'm greedy, right? I mean, it comes down to basic common sense economic principles, but that's when you'll probably liquidate rental properties because you'll be able to get top dollar, right? When everyone can get no money down loans. So you have to experience those kinds, and that's more advanced strategy. When you first start, you don't even have to understand that stuff because I show you how to get in and out and with these deeply discounted deals. But, if you have a portfolio of rental properties, for example, and there's all these no money down loans and everybody can get loans, that's when you sell. You're going to get peak prices. And when nobody's getting mortgages and the banks, and that's why you should stay liquid, because when the banks stop lending and the prices plummet, that's when you should be writing checks for new homes. And then the cycle continues and it goes up and down. I watched a beautiful YouTube video by Dalio. Ray Dalio?
Yeah, Roy Dalio.
Did you see that 30-minute thing where he explained the economic machine of America? It's like an infographic video on YouTube.
No.
It's badass. Watch it. It explains the American economy, the way the Fed operates the rates, and then there's the short-term debt cycles, the long-term debt cycles. You'd appreciate it. Seriously. I'm like, I got it, but like he just put it in such a clean, I'm like, yeah. Like if you get this, you beat the market. You beat the housing market, you beat the stock market, and there's more variables at play, and you got to get strategic. But in general, it's a general like compass to the way the entire machine works. It's really cool.
So we've got a couple of minutes left, and you've obviously had a hell of a journey, your ups, your downs. What would you say, what advice would you give to those who are listening to this right now who are in their bottom? They've just gone through a divorce. They've just gone through bankruptcy. They're lower than they've been, in a long time. What would you say to them?
It lasts as long as you allow it. That state is as long as you allow it to be. And everyone wakes themselves up at different times. Everyone has some type of event or person that crosses their path that can wake them up. And, mine was just the despair of, listen, I'm against the wall. I got to make a living here. I have a family. But when the winds change, you have to adjust your sails. Maybe your winds drastically change. Now it's time to do things you've never done before to get out of this hole. And again, it is temporary if you allow it to be.
That is very true. I haven't heard it put so succinctly, but I can absolutely vouch for the fact that is the case, and it's a mind shift and it's a decision. And if you need help making that decision, a big turning point for me was going to Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny just a year and a half ago.
Okay,
that was a huge turning point personally, and I know this stuff, but I still need the support and all of that stuff as well. So.
Totally. Yeah. Knowing it's one. We all know how to be skinny. Why is everybody obese? Right. Everyone who's fat knows how to be skinny. You eat less and move more. It takes more than that.
That's awesome. Well, Nick, this has been incredibly insightful, very entertaining. And I would love it if you would give everyone who's listening to this some places to go meet up with you and to connect with you online. So where can they find you?
For sure. Yeah. alphahomeflipping.com is my site. Check me out. Say hi. I'm on Instagram very actively at Alpha Home Flipping, Periscope at Alpha Home Flipping, Facebook.com/Alpha Home Flipping. But check it out. Snapchat. I'm having a lot of fun there. At Real Nick Ruiz. A lot of fakers out there. I'm the real one. At Real Nick Ruiz. But check me out. I'm active on there too. But yeah, say what's up. Say you saw me on Mike's podcast.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the time today. This was awesome. And guys, go connect with Nick. Obviously, I think he's one of the most authentic people out there in the real estate market. And if this is a subject matter that you're interested in, obviously go connect with him. He clearly knows what he's doing, and he's been there and he's done that. So Nick, thank you for the time today, participating in the show and sharing your leadership and your expertise with the audience.
Beautiful, Mike. It was a super pleasure. I had a blast, honestly. Thanks for having me.
Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next week.